Okay, looks like we are live. Guys, thanks for joining us. This is Standing for Truth, and we got Jeremy here, Jason, and Raw Matt. So we're going to be discussing some of the skeptics' best lines of evidence for evolution and some of their best lines of evidence against our position as well. So tonight's going to be fun. Before we get into it, a couple announcements. This weekend we've got Saturday, 9:30 EST. Brother Neff will be debating David, who goes by Kakarot on YouTube. I just debated him a couple days ago, so that should be a good one. Creation versus evolution. And on Sunday, we've got Salvador debating Ron. He's a critic of creation and has a blog, and he's written some criticisms against Dr. John Sanford and genetic entropy. So they're going to debate genetic entropy. So we're really looking forward to that one. If you guys can make it, make sure you do. Mark it in your calendar. So anyways, yeah, I think we're gonna just jump right into the so-called Starlight problem. We've got Jeremy here, one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He's taught me a ton. Jeremy's a great blessing to this team. So when it comes to answering that so-called problem of distant starlight, there's nobody better. So Jeremy, how you doing tonight, brother?
Hello. I'm doing this. That's all. Doing this.
Awesome. Well, you know what? We love it. We love battling the critics. We're going to try and take some time to also address some dating methods, isochron, for example. We want to address some genetic related arguments like nested hierarchies, for example, specifically in mitochondrial DNA proteins, and in neutral variation, specifically in amino acid trees that Herman Mays likes to look to. So it's gonna be a little technical tonight, but oftentimes that's necessary when we're taking on, the best of the best. So typically, Jeremy, when I discuss creation evolution, they bring up distant starlight and say that that's a problem for young Earth creation. I'll typically point out the fact that gravitational time dilation, Dr. Russell Humphrey's model, suggests that God could have created stars and galaxies while Earth was deep inside a gravitational well, which causes Earth clocks to slow down or even stop. I find it fascinating, and I'm going to have you get right into it, because if the audience would remember the fact that even Einstein himself said that gravity is a dent in space-time caused by the presence of matter. Therefore, if the Earth would be at the center of all the matter in the universe, it actually would have been at the deepest part of this gravitational well. Therefore, this explanation I find to be very, very scientific, and that's why I want Jeremy to kind of go into it a bit, but it's very technical, Jeremy. So as you're talking about it, I may jump in just with some clarifying questions or maybe some questions from the audience. But yeah, go ahead, brother. What do you think of that?
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. What do you like? If you could go into maybe a brief explanation of
Dr. Russell people. Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. You were saying.
Well, actually, you know what? Before we even get right into that specific model, can you go over what are a few of the common solutions to this problem that you've studied and heard, and then which one? I assume you believe this one's the best one, but which ones are the most common ones that you've heard?
From the largest creationist organization, Young Earth creationist organization in the world. You have to be specific, because even Christian evolutionists label themselves as evolutionary creationists. So labeling ourselves as creationists, people will get confused. And we know Hugh Ross is an old Earth creationist. So just to clarify to people the updates, how things are going in this, even the names are changing. So sorry, you were saying Standing for Truth?
Yeah, what are some of the what do you believe are the top three models right now out there solving this problem of distant starlight in the universe?
Three top ones: scientific or miraculous.
Good question. It could be miraculous as well. I would include that in there.
Well, the largest young Earth creationist organization, Answers in Genesis, invokes a miracle. Okay, and the scientific community will never accept that, of course. Even Christian evolutionists or evolutionary creationists, of course. But it makes sense if you read the Bible. Okay, and like you said before, Dr. Danny Faulkner and Mr. Ken Ham both are pushing this idea. And I think their mission is just to make sure that young Earth creationists are confident that we are able to solve the distant starlight problem based on the evidence written on the Bible, not based on the evidence scientifically. Okay. Sorry. Hang on. Okay. There's interference. Just 15 seconds maybe. Okay. Sorry. Sorry.
Of course, no problem, no problem. Jason, how you doing tonight, brother?
Oh, good. I was just monitoring the comments to see if there's anything in there. I was just about to post in the private chat. But it is what's he saying, Jungle Jug? Time dilation of time is not a problem. It is the solution, or whatever. I'm
No
doing well.
problem.
So what's going on here with you? I suppose what's going on? Where are you live? So what a silly question. But yeah, well, Jeremy's back now, so you might want to.
Jeremy, welcome
Sorry.
back, my man. Anytime you got to
Same
step
here.
away, you just let us know. We'll fill in the dead air. So you've got Danny Faulkner's model from AIG, more of as you say, the supernatural related explanation. Because I know from what I've heard on with Danny Faulkner, the creation of the universe, stars, the planets, for example, it would have taken place during Creation Week, which would be an unrepeatable, unobservable time in history. So, in your opinion, regarding that model, what are some of the problems? What are some of the issues you would say you have with that model?
Well, if you're a Christian, if you read the Bible, you use the Bible to prove the Bible. That is the point of Ken Ham and Dr. Danny Faulkner. Okay, Ken Ham is the president. Faulkner is their lead astronomer. So you use the Bible to prove the Bible by using Adam. I think you know about that, standing for truth. If you want, you can explain, or I'll do it. So what? What do you think? You or me?
No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Okay. Uh, Adam did not, as we know, he didn't start as a baby. Okay. So he started, I think, in his 20s or 30s. So it was like an accelerated growth. When God said he molded, was that what I said again before, Romat, molded? Is that the correct way to say it? Molded, right? Like a clay?
Yep.
Okay. When he molded Adam, when you read the Bible passage that suggest, no, no, not suggest, that say that God molded Adam, you would quickly realize that it seems like an evolution, a quick instant evolution. I mean, the evolution that evolutionists are postulating. Okay, it's like an evolution, but at an accelerated pace. Kenham and Danny Faulkner also talk about time lapse. If you recall, time lapse, where in one day the plants grew fast. Okay, the trees grew fast, the hills grew fast. Okay, and not instantly, but within 24 hours, a time lapse. Okay, so everything went into, guys, is lapse the correct English? I mean, accelerated time lapse, right? That's the
Oh
correct
yeah,
English,
yeah.
right? So everything went into a time lapse. Okay, all fitting within 24 hours. Okay, so I said everything in the universe, the
It's
Earth.
kind it's kind of
Yeah,
like, obviously God didn't create Adam as a zygote. You know what I mean? Nor did he create him as a baby or a teenager. He created
or
him as an adult individual, you know, and
yeah,
I like looking at it like this. If scientists were to show up to the garden at the creation, you know, just after the creation event, for example, and they started doing assessments. You know, they started weighing him. They started taking blood tests, for example, checking his electrolytes, you know, whatever, taking his vital signs, for example. They would find some data and evidence that suggests he's old, maybe, for example, his height or his weight. But then they would also find lines of evidence that suggests he's young. For example, maybe his, you know, the results from his blood test, for example, or just the youthfulness of his skin, or, you know, so there's kind of like a, you know, there'd be a mix, kind of like we actually see in the universe today. You know, we
but
see some lines of evidence that seem to suggest the universe is old, while there are other lines of evidence that really suggest that it's young. And it's those lines of evidence that suggest that it's young, just like those lines of evidence that would suggest Adam was young and just created, that actually demonstrates that it is indeed young. So that's kind of the way I like to look at it.
here it is standing for truth. I can pretend to be an evolutionist since I studied their data also. What if I told you, why did it take 24 hours for this time lapse to happen? He is God after all. What would you say?
Oh, simple. I mean, he could have taken 10,000 years. He could have, the reason why he chose 24-hour days, 6 days, and on the seventh day he rested was to give us, you know, a reason, or to show us why we would work 6 days and also rest on the seventh, for example. So it was to help us. But God, in his infinite power and capabilities, could have created the universe in 1 second if he wanted to, but I believe he did it for us, for our benefit.
So we can tell the time lapse of the plants. We don't know how long God molded Adam. He could have molded him for 18 hours, just like the plants, maybe 18 hours. So the growth process will not really be. It's not like 10 seconds or 20 seconds, or else the creation would have taken only 5 minutes, and the day one there
Right.
wouldn't be a day one. So it would have said 5 minutes or 10 minutes,
So
right?
right.
So here's the next thing I learned from Dr. Hugh Ross. Okay, uh, our time lapse. He also has a time lapse, but his is billions of millions and billions of years. That is why he said that one day or two, oh yeah, one day is the age of the dinosaurs, and then another day is the age of the apes, right? Dinosaurs, and then birds,
Right.
then apes,
Yeah,
and
according to
so on.
him, the days are long periods of time.
So, the question is, uh, are we going off topic? Sorry.
No, no.
Uh,
Well, no, I don't think we should go too much off topic, just because we want to be able to cover as many lines of evidence as possible. So I think at this point being, okay, so we have Danny Faulkner's model, and we can understand the logic and the science and the, I guess, the biblical evidence
so,
behind that. But why don't we go to, okay, and then you got, for example, Dr. Jason Lisle's model, which would suggest, does that have to do with the one-way speed of light?
yes,
Is where we get the time, but then the other way,
we know one
light is
direction.
instantaneous. Right.
We know the speed of light in one direction, but we do not know when it comes back to us the speed,
Right.
right?
Right. So, what do you believe are the problems associated with that one? And then we'll jump right into Russell Humphrey's model and kind of conclude it there as to why that model seems to explain all the data and also help counter the objections from the other side. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Let me finish the Faulkner first. The Danny Faulkner thing. I'm going back on topic here, just to complete the Faulkner thing. Answers in Genesis did not intend actually to try to convince the scientific community about this. And like I said, we cannot use this evidence using the Bible to prove the Bible. Okay, we cannot do that. The scientific community will never accept that. Using the Bible to prove the Bible, even Christian evolutionists will not accept that. So, Kenham and Danny Faulkner designed this evidence just for young Earth creationists. So they use Adam as an example and time lapse. If Adam was 33 years old, for example, during his creation, then since the Bible did state that everything from day 1 to day 6, isn't it? Day 6 was in a time lapse, so everything was created not instantly, but slowly within 24 hours. Okay. Um, if Sorry for my English, I'm a little lost. Um, this is
Your
designed for
English is
young.
fine.
Sorry.
Your English is fine, man. We can understand
Yeah,
you clearly.
I've been talking for some time also. But it's okay. I just ate, so I can talk. They designed this for young Earth creationists to have faith on the Bible. They didn't really design this for the scientific community because they already knew that the scientific community will not allow young Earth creationists to use the Bible to prove the Bible. But it makes sense. If Adam was created mature, then why not? And the Bible said 24 hours for every day, right? So there's
Right.
a time, and including distant starlight. If everything on Earth was 24 hours, why not distant starlight? Also created mature, just like the plants and animals
Right.
and human.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the point. It makes sense
It
if you
does.
use the Bible to prove the
Well,
Bible.
especially because the way I see it, and I've said something similar to this in a debate too, when being challenged with this issue, according to the Genesis creation week, if God instantly created, obviously Adam, like we said, he didn't create Adam as a zygote. Therefore, if he created, let's say, trees, and then scientists came shortly after the creation of trees and they analyzed and did assessments, well, the leaves would have chlorophyll in them as leaves do today, but it didn't come by normal processes. This is the unrepeatable supernatural creation week. So when God made, let's say, rocks, even when God made the first rocks, they would have had atoms in them. And then we come along later and say that lead must have come from the decay of uranium, for example, even if we got into like dating methods. Therefore, we will use that to date the rock. But scientists and the skeptics would be wrong, as there would have been lead there to begin with. Why shouldn't there be? And I think that can go for the starlight, like you said. It can go for rocks. It can go for atoms. It can go for Adam, for example, who was created supernaturally in the garden. So it does make sense. I do see,
Standing to truth, there is another angle to this. I'm sorry for prolonging this Danny Faulkner thing because there's another angle to this. The zygote thing that you mentioned, right? When God said he molded Adam from the dust, okay? Although we do find evidence that we are created from dust, okay? And Lawrence Krauss did also say we were created from stardust. So we know that our chemical composition has dust particles, right, Roman?
Sorry, I was muted. What?
Yeah. Our bodies have a composition or elements from the dust, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all the
Mineral.
elements that are in the earth.
Yeah, that
isn't
doesn't
it? How many is there, Matt? 7 or something, isn't there?
7? No, there's like 98 minerals in us.
Oh, 98 minerals. Sorry. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. Okay.
But evolutionists, especially atheist evolutionists, are not intimidated by that anymore. You know
I was
why?
thinking of something else.
Because
Sorry.
we came from stardust, they say. and stardust created the Earth. So as you can see, there is a. I just want to let young Earth creationists know, if you don't mind, the other side's argument. I'm not trying to discourage you, young Earth creationists. I'm just trying to let you know what I know, what I've studied all these years, the other side's argument. Okay, so that you will not be shocked when they try to bring this up to you. Lawrence Krauss' stardust idea that your left hand came from one star and then your right hand may have came from another star does not prove that we came from the dust that the Bible is referring to. Okay, so that's all. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. I'm just trying to, guys, it's all right, right? I do this. Trying to, yeah, the other side's argument.
Of course, yeah, and that's what this
Yeah.
video is. Like, for example, when we get into, let's say, some of the arguments in nested hierarchies, it's my intention to represent their side and their argument accurately, and then go over the lines of evidence as to why that this empirical data and observation fits better with our model. So yeah, it's always good to represent the other side. We never want to straw man. So of course, Jeremy.
No.
I
It's
just
good,
wanna.
mate. It's because it makes us better than them because we look at both sides.
Right.
I just wanna make sure that young Earth creationists are one step ahead, and make sure that they know the arguments the other side is. They've adapted.
Well, that is why, and that's exactly why, we're doing this broadcast tonight, and we're titling it, the evolution's best evidence, because we're going to represent them accurately. And that's why I'm, before we get into a little more detail on gravitational time dilation, that's why I'm asking you to go over a few of the other models, going over the strengths and weaknesses, right? Because we're trying to be objective here, which is, oftentimes you'll find the evolutionist is almost incapable of being objective. They can't watch debates objectively. They can't represent our side objectively. They fight a straw man. We're not about that. We're here to represent their side accurately. And therefore, we're not fighting against a straw man. And I think that that's the most effective approach. So that's why we're doing this tonight. So Jeremy, why don't we jump into Jason Lisle's model, and then we'll go into gravitational time dilation. So what do you regard as his model, for example, on the the one-way speed of light argument, for example, the round trip speed?
It's too simple. Although we know the one-way speed of light going one direction, we do not, but we do not know the speed of light coming to our direction, right? Correct. We cannot say we don't know. We are not. It will not be scientific if we say we don't know. You want to be a step ahead of the evolutionists? Try as much as possible to not say I don't know.
Okay, so according to that model, then Dr. Jason Lisle, or just us in general, we would regard the speed of light as being instantaneous when coming toward us, and that being the case, then the light from distant stars would really just take no time at all to reach us here on the Earth, because the light is traveling us. And so according to that model, distant starlight would not be a problem. So is that more or less representing his position accurately? And if so, what do you believe are the strengths? And then what do you believe are the weaknesses in that?
It's just so simple.
Okay, it's too simple.
It's too simple. And the other one is the time zone. Do you know about the time zone? The other model of Jason Lisle, the time zone thing. Ramat, are you familiar with that?
Yeah, the different time zone model. Basically, I have.
It's too simple, right?
I'm sorry.
Don't you think it's too simple?
It is fairly simplistic because it's like so
simple.
Like the one on Earth.
There's like not even a
on Earth. It just doesn't really hold up.
Yeah, it doesn't hold. But he has two models. But at least now we have three. One, Dr. Danny Faulkner.
Right.
Makes sense. Okay,
Makes sense.
but don't forget the counter argument of evolutionists. I already told the Lawrence Krauss thing.
Right.
Okay, and now this model of Dr. Jason Lisle, and these two models of Dr. Jason Lisle. Okay, actually four are remaining today. Two from Jason Lisle and one from Answers in Genesis, Danny Faulkner and Ken Ham. Okay, the fourth one is gravitational time dilation, young Earth creationist version. Okay, so what is the question standing for truth?
What is what? Oh, sorry. You weren't
Yeah,
asking.
There
Yeah,
are four models to solve distant starlight left today, but the first three have problems, and I've already mentioned the problems. Okay, so
Okay, so the
uh,
next. Okay, so the next.
evolution,
Yeah.
evolutionists. Sorry,
No, sorry. Go
yes,
ahead, Jeremy.
evolutionists can say, like I said, using the Bible to prove the Bible from Dr. Faulkner is just not allowed, not scientific. Okay.
Right.
And what predictions can we make?
Yeah, I was just
Eh,
going to say that if it comes down to that, which is testable, for example, when we go over our created heterozygosity hypothesis, yes, we assume, that basic assumption that God front loaded those DNA differences into Adam and Eve, but it's not post hoc ad hoc because it leads to testable predictions on DNA function, speciation rates, mutation rates. Therefore, an explanation or hypothesis such as that really is science. So you're right. What an important question to always ask for both sides is what testable predictions can flow from that explanation.
But standing for truth, you did not directly answer the. You went around it. You did not directly address. You did not. Yes, your data is correct, but the mistake here is that you did not go. You did not refute it directly.
Well, I
Sorry.
wasn't. No, I
You did
wasn't trying. I wasn't trying to refute it. I was just pointing out the fact, an issue
What
that just one second. An issue that the evolutionists would have, as you pointed out, is an explanation such as, distant starlight being the result of the creation week and being more of a supernatural explanation. The evolutionists will object by saying, okay, but it's not science because there's no testable predictions that flow from it. So I was just reiterating that fact and agreeing with you that, yeah, that is an objection that they could make. And then relating it to our other more genetic related model, for example. But yeah, no, I wasn't trying to I was just agreeing with the fact that, yeah, that's an objection that they could make. What's an objection they could make to Dr. Jason Lisle's model? Would it be, for example, would you say Dr. Lisle's model lacks a robust explanation for
Yes.
deep time events such as like galaxies colliding or like
Dr.
and things like that?
Dr. Jason Lisle said that he will solve the problem in the future, but he made a shortcut with his explanation on distant starlight. There are a lot of holes. That is why he said that if you really want a model to explain everything, you have to refer to Dr. Russell Humphreys. Okay, and by the way, going back again to the Danny Faulkner thing, sorry for repeating. There is a testable prediction, and the testable prediction or retrodiction is that our bodies are composed of 98%, right, raw mat, of dust, the elements. Okay, so we can use that still, but you have to prepare for the Lawrence Krauss explanation too. Okay, so that is our prediction. If you want to make it scientific, this is something you can use.
Right.
And I believe you already, people, young Earth creators are already ready for this. Okay, also be ready for Lawrence Krauss explanation. Okay, we are made of stardust. So, why the Earth is made of stardust also? Parts of it, most of it. Okay, so that is why our composition is the same with the dust. Many young Earth creationists don't know this. So be ready for that. Okay, so in a way, our testable prediction on the Danny Faulkner thing is tied with the evolutionist and or atheist evolutionist explanation. It is a tie over there. Okay, so we have a scientific explanation. It is not purely a miracle one, but they will say it is not. We cannot use the Bible to prove the Bible, and then Lawrence Krauss has an explanation. That's what we will say. They will say. So it's a tie over there. I can say it's a tie, and we have a written record, of course, of what happened. And that's the Bible. So written documentation of the past is evidence. Okay, we use that on Jesus and Caesar and so on. Why not use it? Why not apply it? Why not use the Bible also? So you have to know, they have to know how to respond. Okay, one, our composition, same with the dust, 98%. If wrong, if we are not mistaken, wrong at, and we have a written record. Where is the written record of evolutionists? None. It's all assumptions. Okay, so just an idea for young Earth creationists to to give them an idea the atheist response and to help them respond to the atheist response. Okay, because in more or less it's a tie. Okay, so I just want to complete one thing. This is something that you will never hear from Ken Ham and Andrew Snelling. This is something I came up with. So if you want to use it against atheist evolutionists, go ahead. If it works, then great. If it doesn't work, then sorry, I'm forgive. But do you guys think it makes sense? We have manuscript, we have a record. They don't have. Plus, it's a tie. Okay, we are composed. Our bodies elements are dust made. Also, think that's enough. We have a little edge, but more or less it's a tie. Our little edge is we have a written record of the Bible. But they will say we cannot use the Bible, but we can say that we have documentary. We have a written record of it, and a written record of the past is a very strong evidence that we rely on today. That's all. So that's our little edge, but more or less it's a tie over there. I will not lie. It is more or less a tie.
And what I like about that is what we're going to get into now is, in my opinion, and I think the evidence suggests that this is what breaks the tie. But even before we get into, Dr. Russell Humphrey's white hole cosmology, the gravitational time dilation, I think in any discussion regarding the age of the universe, especially in relation to Starlight, the question needs to be asked in regards to the age is, by which clock? Because I think we have to realize that time itself is relative. And I find it interesting that in Genesis, what's written down is that the reference frame that God gives us, according to Genesis, Genesis 1 specifically, is clearly from an Earth rotation perspective, right? From Earth clocks. So I think understanding that and starting with that basic assumption, the listeners are going to understand the time dilation model a little bit better.
Because Dr. Russell Humphrey's explanation, his videos are the way I see it. They are. I'm not trying to offend anyone, the audience, but I think you noticed yourselves, audience, that Dr. Humphrey's simple explanation is not simple at all.
Right.
It is.
There's really no simple way to put it. No, you're right.
It is not. It is not easy to understand for average people. No offense, okay? Because I've heard people say, "Huh, I still don't get it."
Right. And that's why I'm pointing out the fact that, time itself is relative. And that's why everybody in the audience, the skeptics, they should be always saying, by which clock? Because I've found that a lot of Christians or young Earth creationists, they almost seem like while we are going over this explanation, we're suggesting that we're old Earth creationists or something like that. No, because as I said earlier, the reference frame that God has given us in Genesis 1 has to do with Earth perspective, Earth clock. So, Jeremy, why don't we get right into distant starlight in regards to the gravitational time dilation? Go ahead, brother.
Okay, to further simplify Dr. Humphrey's model, because his videos are, he said they were already simple, but the way people have been complaining that they are not simple, they still don't get it. So I'll just make people understand even further. I'm not really smart. I just studied it very well. And it's not really easy. Not underestimating anyone, but okay, just going nowhere here. Okay, okay.
Okay, why don't we start off with this? What are, for example, with this model, right off the bat, we must assume, because every model, every hypothesis, every position starts off with assumptions. This is just a fact. So I know that right off the bat, we must assume that the Earth is at the center of matter or mass, for example. Are there any other assumptions, Jeremy? Real quick, are there any other assumptions that go along with the gravitational time dilation model?
Usually the assumptions are at the beginning only. The miracles only happen at the beginning.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So at the start of the model, because we're starting at the start here, so I think a good place to start would be the assumptions, involved in the model itself. So are there any other assumptions other than the fact that Earth must be at the center of mass during its creation?
Not necessarily the Earth, but the galaxy, right? Because the Earth is not at the center, not even at the center of the Milky Way galaxy. It is almost at the outskirts of our galaxy, at the at the rear of the third, at the middle of the second and third spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy. Which coincidentally, no, I don't think it's a coincidence. There are only two places in the Milky Way galaxy in which life, carbon-based life, can exist. And what are the odds that we are in one of the two? Okay, it's just an additional evidence. It's a good one. It's a scary thing for the atheist. Now, you were saying against standing for truth? Sorry, my memory is having a problem.
No, that's okay. I was just talking about the assumptions, because in space, if we assume that the Earth is at the center of matter, for example, something in the center, real quick, but then something in the center of matter will then create a huge dent in space-time. So this is kind of where the model now flows from this basic assumption, right?
Okay. Sorry for interrupting you. Do you want to say something more?
No, that's about it.
Okay. Because some young Earth creationists have misinterpreted the model. They think, and I explain it in two ways. One, the Earth at the center, and two, the galaxy at the center, our Milky Way at the center. Okay, but most young Earth creationists, which side by Dr. Russell Humphreys, they are not saying that the Earth is at the center anymore. But they are saying that it is the galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy is at the center anymore. Primarily because we are not even at the center of our galaxy. If we are at the center of our galaxy, then we would be it's impossible because there's a black hole over there. We would not exist in a black hole, right? So
we would be at or near the center of the universe itself, right?
A galaxy.
The galaxy.
Okay. But Dr. Humphreys is trying to, in his book, which he didn't write in the second version of his book, okay? Because I'm trying, because there are two books. I'm trying to explain both books. That is why people are also confused when I explain it, because sometimes I explain it, the Earth being at the center. Well, in fact, it can be the galaxy at the center. It doesn't matter. There are trillions of galaxies out there. What are the odds this galaxy is at the center? And it's better even if the Earth is at the center. And there are evidence that the Earth itself is at the center too, called the cosmic axis of evil, if you heard of it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But then we'll go into that next time. But right now, I will not say the Earth is at the center of the
Well,
universe.
I just want to stop you real quick. Actually, that's really good to go into, and you're right. We can go into that later. But assuming that, but then showing the evidence as well that kind of flows from that basic assumption just strengthens the model even more.
Yeah, we have two versions. We can use the cosmic axis to prove that the Earth itself is at the center of the universe.
Right.
Okay, because inertia around our the vicinity of the stars are keeping us stable. For example, when you are sitting down, inertia is keeping you from the stars. Believe it or not, the stars from trillions of miles away help inertia here on Earth. The reason it's not only about the Earth's gravity; it's also about the inertia that is generated by the stars from in the vicinity of around us. Okay, and it's the same. Okay, we are at the local group of galaxy. Okay, which is well spaced. Another design feature, well spaced, not so condensed. Is condensed the correct English? So close. All right. So not condensed. Okay. So those inertia also help stabilize the Milky Way galaxy, our galaxy. Okay. So that's about the inertia thing. And this inertia thing is more or less connected to the cosmic axis of evil, because like I said, this is centered around the Earth using the cosmic axis of evil. Okay, so you can go that route, but there's a problem with that route. The problem with that route is you are already suggesting geocentrism, and we are now on the Copernican principle, right? So they will say we're going back to the days of Galileo. Okay, so you can use that because there is a solid evidence. This is one evidence that I really love. Okay, if I elaborate, and then it's gonna be scary. That is why this cosmic axis of evil is the number one mystery in the universe. They don't know why the entire universe the is aligned with our ecliptic and equatorial plane. What are the odds? It is like God using a ruler
Right.
as a measuring rod. Uh, rod is rod the correct English? It is like God using a ruler to to align the universe, to organize the universe by using our ecliptic, our planet's ecliptic and equatorial plane. Heard of this, man?
Actually, no. That one's new to me.
Yeah, cosmic axis of evil. It's very complex, actually.
Oh, the axis of evil. Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
they renamed it. Yeah, they renamed it that. It wasn't that name originally.
actually, ICR did dared to get into this cosmic axis of evil, but they left out a lot of details in order for people, evolutionists, not to accuse us of going back to the Galileo days, because we are now on the Copernican principle, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
that's the one.
Yes. But we can go back to the Galileo days based on this cosmic axis of evil alone. Okay? And I can prove it, but next time maybe. Now, going back to, so I'm just trying to teach young Earth creationists a different perspective here, based on what I learned. So there are a lot of routes, really. There's just every problem has two solutions. That is what that is what I learned after so more than a decade of studying all of these sciences. Okay, okay, that's one route. If you dare to challenge the Copernican principle, only a few dare to challenge the Copernican principle, and one of them is not Humphreys, but his friend Dr. John Hartman. That is why he was part of the movie The Principle, which talked about going back to the Galileo days, trying to debunk the Copernican principle. Okay, due to this axis of evil evidence, which is the number one mystery, no answer from secularists. So they put it just there. Maybe science can someday answer. We cannot go back to the Copernican principle. We cannot go back to the Galileo days. Okay, so it will destroy the entire secular cosmology.
Right.
So they just leave it, leave it alone. Okay, so that's one route, fellow young Earth creationists. Okay, but the primary route, I wish I could explain the cosmic axis of evil right now, but it needs slides. So sorry about that. But you could check it out, but it's really technical. It's a little more difficult to understand than gravitational time dilation by Dr. Russell Humphreys. The way I see it, it took me a month or two to really focus on it. A month or two, just that cosmic axis of evil. Okay, because there are a lot of angles to it. I even made a model of it. Okay, so sorry. So standing for truth, try to keep me
Jeremy,
try to keep me on top. Yeah, it's on topic actually. If
It
you
is.
want to use Earth as the center of the universe, the Earth itself, you can use the cosmic axis.
Right.
But right now,
Exactly.
most young
It
Earth creationists
strengthens
use
the model going, into that topic. So I'm
do you
glad you
want me
did.
to read off the super chat? George Bond left a super chat for $10. Do you want to take questions now or later? It doesn't matter.
Oh, you know what? Yeah,
Later.
let's read it off real quick. George, you're putting our kids through college, man. Thanks so much. Super chat, $10. I also don't have a quantum theory of gravity, so I can't tell you for certain how space comes into existence. Quoted by Lawrence Krauss himself. So,
Yeah,
George,
that's right.
brother, thanks so much for that super chat, man.
So I'm gonna answer that.
Yeah,
Is it a question?
Not necessarily. He was just saying,
it's
but he was just stating that Lawrence Krauss, but basically says that I think he's going. It goes towards Stephen Hawking using gravity, but then there's no mass. There's no mass to create the gravity. So it's you know what I'm saying, right, Jeremy?
Yes, yes, I understand. There's no
Yeah.
initial mass, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The quantum theory of so yeah, there's no initial mass to start the gravity, so that goes to quantum. But then they admit at the same time that they don't have a quantum theory of gravity. So
Yeah.
it's sort of
And
it keeps them stuck there.
actually, many scientists are against the quantum theory because do you know that the quantum theory is also called quantum weirdness? Because quantum theory, the particles over there behave weirdly, right? Have you ever heard
Yeah,
of it? It behaves weirdly. Okay, so how can you create a stable, universe like this if the initial conditions are already weird? The particles are weird. I do not have time to explain how weird they are, but it is called quantum weirdness as well. It was used in a debate between Dr. Dinesh D'Souza and Dr. Dan Barker. Okay, Dinesh D'Souza, I think you people are familiar with him. And Dan Barker, popular person, president of the which I hate, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, which attacks Christian activities across your countries.
yeah, they're rotten,
Uh,
horrible
yeah,
people.
and he used this quantum weirdness, and Dan Merker was not able to answer. And to provide support with the idea that quantum mechanics, this quantum theory is really just a rescuing device, is the fact that Stephen Hawking. Okay, because I use Stephen Hawking. I could use other scientists like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I'll use Stephen Hawking because Stephen Hawking said we cannot create models without an admixture of ideology. So there has to be a bias. Correct? Is bias the correct uh, way to say it? Guys, hello. Is bias the correct way to say is? There has to be bias first.
There is. That's
When,
right.
when you have to have this, what you call that in English? Preposition? Is it preposition?
Yeah.
Presupposition, yeah.
Yeah, preposition. We have to have these certain beliefs first before we create our model.
Right.
Okay? So that is the bedrock of the balloon analogy. Okay, in which is trying to disprove that we are at our galaxy is at or near the center of the universe, the rescuing device. Okay, but Stephen Hawking did say, yeah, like I said, it's just an ideology. But this ideology was adopted by everybody today because they got no answer, really. They got no answer. So they are stuck over there. So that's it.
There's also that one theory that you mentioned a little while ago. What was it? The time zone theory. It's called the anisotropic synchrony convenient.
From
Yes.
Jason Lyle, yeah, from Dr. Jason Lyle.
That one's a
Yeah.
simple one to explain as well, if you wanted to.
Yes, there are also assumptions over there. We cannot just use that. It's just too simple, really. It doesn't solve problems. Problems.
Well, and going back, I guess now to gravitational time dilation itself, and I love that you give the supporting
Young
evidence as well.
creationists are aware of everything.
Exactly, exactly, and I find that fascinating too because it's just further support for this model. So okay, so let's say regarding this model, so we assume that the Earth is at the center of mass, and in space, of course, when you have something at the center of mass, it's going to create a huge dent in space. Now we're also going to assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, that God used a white hole to bring about the universe. So given these two assumptions, the Earth would then be in a huge gravitational well. And of course, deep inside a gravitational well, time slows down. And the deeper you go, the slower time gets to the point where it actually stops itself, which is fascinating. So why don't we start there and continue on? Jeremy, take it away, brother.
Well, okay. The model actually started with Dr. Robert Gentry. It was a long time ago. And then Dr. Russell Humphreys did not really fully conceptualize, did not really invent the idea, but he took Dr. Robert Gentry's idea and made it into a full model. I just wanna, make sure it's more complete because this is
Right.
a video about
Give the
gravitational
history of it, for example. Yeah.
Robert Gentry, okay, and it became white hole cosmology
Right.
because Dr. Robert Gentry's model is not a white hole cosmology; it's different. Okay, black hole sucks things in, white hole pushes things out.
Right.
Okay,
And from my understanding, the equations of just relativity theory in general do actually allow for the possibility, as you just said, it's the opposite
no,
of
no,
a
no. It's not a possibility. It's a fact. We observe it
yeah.
even here on Earth.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The equations of relativity theory alone allow for this. And just like you said, the white hole is then the opposite, and just for the audience sake, the opposite of a black hole. Because I find a lot of people may not have heard of, what is this, a white hole? That's where, as you iterated, Jeremy, that matter pours out instead of being sucked in. And this occurs, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this actually occurs until the white hole itself loses all of its matter. It essentially evaporates.
Yes, actually, one reason we can use the white hole is because evolutionists cannot explain where the white hole came from, but
Right.
we can.
We can.
We can.
Good point.
We
Good
can.
point.
And we got
Okay.
proof.
Okay, so that means, and And of course, to the audience, if anyone else has, if there's any questions that you feel like we're not going over thoroughly enough, please let us know. But that's just kind of going a little bit more into defining what a white hole is. But so Jeremy, so now Dr. Humphreys himself, this is what he is proposing happened in the early universe.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Actually, God created small space first. This is based on his first book. Okay. But
Right.
it's also his second book. It is also in his actually the next book was written by his friend Dr. John Hartnett. Okay, I've read two books. Uh, God created small space first.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, this small space, by the way, okay, more or less the way I see it is the size of the Milky Way.
Okay, so this was the early universe, then you're saying the very
Yeah.
early universe.
Okay, so this is the first assumption that you are asking for, standing for truth.
Right. Right.
Okay, and the white hole is the white hole and the Milky Way galaxy was created miraculously first.
Yes.
Okay, oh no no no, the white hole, because we do see things pop out in deep space. Lawrence Krauss even said it in his book. We do see things pop in and pop out just like a white hole. And yes, we do observe that. So why not the entire universe just pop out
Right.
of nothing? So he is using small examples and applying it to the entire universe using quantum theory.
So this is the early universe, as you're saying. It was a lot smaller. This, for the audience sake, and once again, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremy, you're the expert here. This is before God would have stretched out the universe. This is like
Yes.
the non. This is like
There-
the non-stretched out universe.
There's still nothing inside this white
No,
hole.
exactly. There's nothing in there at this point. No.
Okay, because it makes sense too in a biblical perspective or
Right.
in a logical way of thinking that 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 from eternity, from nothing, because Dr. Hugh Ross, an older creationist, and Dr. William Lane Craig, an older creationist too, have said that since atheists cannot explain what happened before the Big Bang, then the nothing before the Big Bang has to be the eternal realm. Because the Big Bang is time and space. So if time was created, then what is outside of time? Nothing.
Nothing.
Eternal. Eternity. Right? It can be interpreted that way. Correct? If you agree. Okay? What else can create time other than something eternal?
Right. That which is outside of time, that which is eternal,
Something
would have
timeless,
to bring forth time, matter, and space.
yes, something timeless has to exist before time exists,
Right.
right? Before space exists, before matter exists. Okay? Something has to create, something timeless has to create time. Something timeless has to create time. How else do you create time? Right? How else do you create matter? So we have an explanation here based on the Bible. Okay, so this is where we and old earth creationists would agree upon. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, outside of space and time, eternity, creating time, timeless, timeless zone. Okay, keep in mind, timeless zone is outside the universe. Okay, based on Dr. William Craig and Dr. Hugh Ross. Sorry for repeating myself because my English is I'm confused really. Forgive me. Maybe people need repeating too. I'm not trying to brag, but just maybe a clarification or a repeat may be needed. So okay. So we're clear about that. Outside the universe, it's nothing, or it's eternal, timeless. Something timeless logically can create time. Timeless. What is timeless? Eternity. Where's God in the Bible? And the angels, he said, they're everywhere, including the eternal realm. Okay, does it make sense? Does it
Yeah,
make sense?
it
It
does.
does, right?
It
It
does.
does make sense. Okay, so out of nothing, let us apply the secularist model. Out of nothing, they say a singularity
Right.
was created.
Yeah.
Doesn't this singularity sound like a white hole where things pop out of it? Singularity, it expanded. It's like things pop out of that singularity also, right?
So
So
and,
this, so
and
this
that
one,
initial singularity was dense, extremely dense, because they assume now that the universe that we see today is still expanding, but it has expanded, as you said, from that original, previously denser state.
yes, but not the singularity that the Big Bang is suggesting. But I'm just trying to cross-reference or compare it to the white hole, right? White hole pops things out, and then the singularity expands things out.
Right.
See the connection?
Yeah.
See the connection? Okay. Okay. So as you can see, Humphreys over here is already trying to
Connect the two. Okay.
connect the two.
Right. So there's some commonality. There's a lot of commonality between our
Yes.
model and that of the Big Bang. Well, I mean, there's multiple Big Bang models, but that of the prevailing Big Bang
And
model.
we can even use what Lawrence Krauss said. And I said a while ago that things just pop out of nowhere in the universe. And yes, we do observe that. So why not a white hole from the eternal realm, timeless zone, popping out also, right? So we have partial scientific evidence here. This is, yeah, sorry for saying this is a pure assumption. This is not a pure assumption. There is a scientific basis on this white hole.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. An assumption, a pure assumption with no scientific basis for it, is non-science. But sure, we have some basic assumptions, but there's a ton of fascinating scientific basis for those assumptions.
We're just talking about the galaxy here. We're not even talking about the cosmic axis, which I was talking about, which we'll talk about maybe next time if we have time. Now, so in a way, we have used secularist idea to postulate this white hole. Sorry, you were saying?
No,
Are you saying?
I wasn't saying anything.
Yeah, wait a sec. I can't hear very well. I'll try to get the volume up. My mom is cooking, so I can't hear. All right, here we go. So we are using their data against them.
Right.
Lawrence Krauss data against them. Okay, using the Big Bang singularity popping out of nothing, the white hole, and Lawrence Krauss, and what we observed that things pop out of nothing in distant space. I don't know if you guys heard of this. Things just pop out.
Well, Humphreys himself derived this white hole cosmology. So all he did was inserted into Einstein's equations the assumption that, as I was explaining earlier, that the universe has expanded from a previously denser state. Like
It is,
there is.
it is not an assumption because we have evidence for it.
Right. No. Well, it's the same assumption that the Big Bangers have. They assume that the universe has expanded from a previously denser state, and as we're going over here, there's scientific basis for that. The evolutionists themselves accept that, as you're talking about here. So,
Yeah, they accept that because of uniformitarianism.
right.
Because everything is expanding, so by the rate of
Expanded
expansion,
back. Right.
by the rate of expansion right now, then if you trace back that expansion, it would take 13 billion years to reach that initial singularity, right? So based on uniformitarianism standards. Okay, so I'm being very detailed here, standing for truth. That is why this is taking longer than expected. Okay, I just want the audience for the first time. I don't know if it's the first time someone explained it this way. Not bragging. I'm just because I read the book twice, and I'm very familiar with this. Even the simplest explanation, Dr. Humphreys made the video of people don't understand. Okay, and he did even modify his new video from his previous video from the show, the Young Earth Creationist show called Origins with Don Chapman. Okay, so okay, where was I? So we can use the white hole idea, and we have evidence for it. It's not just an assumption. Plus, this is what secularists in a way believe. Matter popping out of nothing from Lawrence Krauss and the singularity popping out of nothing. So we are using their evidence against them by this white hole cosmology. Okay, now here's the assumption. Here's the assumption. They got ideology, okay, Stephen Hawking admit, and then the entire scientific community just went along because Stephen Hawking was very smart. Now, Edwin Hubble actually conceptualized this idea, the balloon analogy, but Stephen Hawking enhanced it. Okay, he answered the before the balloon. The before was the quantum in the balloon. He enhanced it with some numerical equations, also using Einstein. Okay, now we're also going to use Einstein here in Humphrey's model. So again, we're going to use their data against them. Okay, relativity, time dilation, in short. Okay, now where do you want me to start? Standing for truth. Sorry, I'm really where do you want me to start? After everything I said. Okay, white hole, okay? So, okay, sorry. This is the assumption. The white hole is no longer an assumption, okay? We use their data against them, plus we do see things pop out of nowhere in the universe. Okay, that is what Lawrence Krauss suggested in his book and in his lectures. Okay, now, things popping out of nowhere. Okay, now, let me go. All right. In Dr. Humphrey's model, he first created uh, empty space, just space. Don't forget, space is not the stars. Space is not the planets. They are not the galaxies. Space is like let me make it easy to understand. Space is like water here on Earth. Water here on Earth, we float, and when we throw rock into water, it ripples. Okay, and when we put something into water, it distorts the water. Correct? Is distort the correct English? All right. It distorts the water, or it creates a dent in the water, right? Is it correct? Is my English is it right? Okay. Guys, is it right? Because I don't want to make a mistake here. Does is distort the correct word when when mass occupies, because I need to cross-reference or relate this to the small space that Russell Humphreys created in Russell Humphreys' model. So is distort the correct word for it when we put something in water and then it occupies space, or mass put into water? It's distortion, right? Because I'm trying to compare water and space. Okay, and space, like I said, is does not contains space itself is not the are not the stars. It's not the star. It's not the galaxies. Okay, space is like the one that holds the stars and galaxies together. Many people really are not really confused. They thought that space is the stars, the galaxies, and so on, while in fact space is different. It's separate. Just like water, it houses the fishes, okay, the corals, and so on. But water is not the corals and the fish, correct? So space is also like that. Space is just like water. And believe it or not, space works like water. Like I said, it ripples, it it distorts, and so on. And we float in water, and we also float in space. There are a lot of similarities between water and space, which help prove the same creator. That's just my opinion. Water and space almost the same. Okay, it is just a house to house the galaxies and stars, and water to house um, the corals and the fishes. Okay, now here God created empty space. Okay, no stars, no planets, nothing. This is the first miracle. Okay, okay, and then there's the white hole, which is scientific already. So I created the white hole, okay, which has scientific evidence, like I explained before. And then he also create, this is the miracle, empty space, okay, empty space. And then based on the chronological of the Bible, the earth was created first, right? So since right now, if I use the cosmic axis of evil, I can say that God put the earth itself into the the empty space that he created, which would distort time, which would create a dent in space-time. Okay, but I will not use it in this case. Okay, just like I forgot if Humphreys did use the Earth as a point of view or the Milky Way as a, yeah, more or less it's the Milky Way. But if I use the cosmic axis, I could prove that the Earth itself is at the center. Okay, it's more or less like our galaxy is at or near the center of the universe. So God created the white hole, and then which has scientific evidence, and He also created the empty space. Now that is the miracle. He created the empty space, and secularists have no explanation where the empty space came from, but we have. It could have been the waters that God was referring to in Genesis somewhere. Sorry, I forgot the verse, which expanded, right? So,
Well, doesn't
okay.
he? Well, doesn't Humphrey say that in the beginning, all the matter of the universe itself was actually in the form of a sphere of liquid water?
Yes, and the water expanded into the event horizon, correct? At the edges of the universe.
That's right.
Okay.
Like when God separated the waters and then placed the firmament between those above and those below, this the well, I mean, that's going to be getting, I think, a little bit later into the model, but that's where the waters and the firmament of Genesis 1 come into play. But why don't we do? Let's keep going step by step. I
It's
don't
really
want to
confusing.
get into the stretching out just yet. That's kind of why I stopped myself there. So just yeah, okay, just keep going. So you know we're at the white
It's
hole.
really confusing if you yeah, it's really very confusing. So I have to really elaborate, okay? Because Humphreys, I wish I could speak to him to explain it the way he explained it in the book. Okay, Aromat, have you read this book? Did anybody of you read this book? Ever read this book or the second version of it? So that you can help me out here. Nobody?
Oh, sorry, Jeremy. I was on
Sorry,
pause.
mate.
I've studied it. I've studied the model quite a bit. I've used it in debates. That's why
Yeah.
I can give more of a simplistic explanation,
This is
kind of like I did in the beginning. But your job here is to go over it step by step, and then we will insert questions or clarification um, during during it. So I would say so for the audience, we'll back up here. I'm going to recap, and then I'm going to have you take it away from there. Okay. So Humphrey's gravitational time dilation. So first, we're assuming that Earth is at the center of mass, and as I went over earlier, something in the center of mass in space is going to create a huge dent in space-time. And Humphreys is just deriving this model of white hole cosmology simply by inserting into Einstein's equations assumptions. For example, the one that I went over earlier, that the universe itself has expanded from a previously dense state, which the evolutionists themselves accept, and that the universe is bounded in space with the Earth at or near its center. That part the evolutionists rejects. Okay, so I want to make that clear real quick, Jeremy. So, okay, you're making me lose my train of thought when you interrupt. Okay, there it was. So, as I said, something in the center of mass is going to create a huge dent in space. Now, we're assuming too that God used a white hole to bring about the universe. Okay, this is kind of where we are. So, real quick. So, if we're using these two assumptions, then the Earth is in a huge gravitational well. I kind of went over this earlier, and deep inside that gravitational well is where time slows down. So let's put a halt right there at this point into the model, and Jeremy, take it away, because it is very technical as you iterated earlier. So therefore, it's oftentimes good, especially since it's been over an hour, to back up, recap, and boom. So why don't you take it away from there, brother Jeremy?
Okay. So, like I said, the white hole is has evidence, and the space that God created is the miracle. Okay, it is the assumption. It is the ideology here. If they can use ideology, evolutionists, why can't we? And our assumptions are much less than theirs. Okay, so God created empty space. Okay, I already explained what empty space is and white hole cosmology, and which ones has evidence and which one is just an assumption. Okay, so I created two. Okay, popping out of nothing, that white hole. Okay, now this empty space he created. Okay, he created this empty space. Why? Okay, because the Earth and the galaxies need to be placed somewhere. Because, like I said, space is like water. It houses the fishes and the corals. So space is like the house of the fishes and the corals, or the stars and the galaxies and stars. Okay, so what God did was he put this space. Okay, all right. By the way, here's another assumption. Sorry, I forgot. A crucial one. Standing for Truth did mention the earth. Okay, he is right that God put it in that space. That is one scenario. One scenario. Okay, I explained it before. I hope some of you did hear it. That is one scenario. The second scenario here, which is uh, accepted, much more accepted than the Earth itself, because we want to avoid the going back to Galileo. Okay, there is some kind of people will less believe if we go back to the Galileo days. Okay, so instead of the Earth being at the center of the universe, or near the center of the universe, we have to use our Milky Way galaxy. Okay, it's okay because our Milky Way galaxy is one of trillions of galaxies. And another evidence that Dr. Humphreys used is that our Milky Way galaxy today is at or near the center of the universe. There is the concentric shell of supergalaxy clusters, trillions, millions or billions of them surrounding our galaxy like an onion. And the center of that onion, that concentric shell, is the Earth. Okay, because as we know, the center of mass would really create the most would really dense space more than if you are not at the center of mass. Okay, so this Milky Way galaxy that God created, okay, this is the assumption. He put it in that empty space. Okay, like I said, the empty space is the house, okay, of the stars and galaxies. Okay, this galaxy of ours, the Milky Way galaxy. And then this empty space, okay, sorry, I made a huge mistake. Okay, before the white hole came out, God, like I said, already supernaturally, this is the assumption, supernaturally created the the empty space, and then he created the Milky Way galaxy into that empty space. Okay, so now we have space, okay, inside that white hole. So as you can see, there is some kind of time already flowing within that black hole. Okay, there's already time within that black hole. Okay, and our galaxy was put first. Okay, and then, but since there is space, our galaxy being put into that space cannot dent that space enough to create a time dilation effect that is required to solve the distant starlight problem and solve all the accusations of evolutionists. So, okay, another assumption. Okay, how many assumptions do we have now? Two or three? Okay, evolutionists have more than 10. Okay, so here, third assumption. We put it there. Okay, we put the was I again? I lost. I don't have a script here. So he put those galaxies. He put our galaxy first. Okay, it created a small dent into that space inside the white hole. Okay, inside the white hole. Okay, and then since the dent of our galaxy is not enough to create a time dilation in which our galaxy can reach a timeless zone. Okay, relativity, EMC squared by Albert Einstein. Okay, all right, no time to elaborate the math. Okay, so this our galaxy inside that white hole is already experiencing time dilation. Time is already slowing down, but it is not enough because its mass is not enough. It is not big enough. So, fourth assumption or third, okay, God created stars and galaxies. Okay, now there are two versions of this. If you want to apply the Big Bang to this, God will only put extra space above that, above our Milky Way galaxy, inside that white hole. Okay, a huge space, a cosmic levels size space, in order for our Milky Way galaxy to sink into the timeless zone so that our time could stop. The entire Milky Way, including the Earth, would sink into the timeless zone. There is no time, but things can still happen there. But there is no time. Okay, time doesn't exist. Like time is flowing right now. Dr. Russell Humphreys described it as a dull place, but he never said that processes are not happening. And don't forget, God said he created the stars also in day 4. Okay, so this makes sense that God only put space, okay, only put space above the Milky Way galaxy so that it could sink below the timeless zone. Assumption number 3 or 4. Okay, and you could, if you would want the, in this case, if you want to use the standard Big Bang explanation of how galaxies and stars form. So as you can see from this point, we can Dr. Russell's Humphreys model is already flexible. His model is already flexible. It can accommodate the Big Bang. Okay, it can accommodate the Big Bang if only if the cosmic proportional size was put above the galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy. Okay, and then stars start to evolve after God stretched out the heavens. Okay. Okay. Here. Okay, the space that God put in order for the timeless zone, for our galaxy to sink into the timeless zone. Now, we are now in the timeless zone, our Milky Way galaxy, including the Earth. Okay, don't forget, we can use our galaxy or the Earth if I use the cosmic axis, but here we use the galaxy, Milky Way galaxy. Okay, now the mass of this space, okay, this space, there are 2 versions. One, just empty space is enough to sink our, because space is not is not nothing. Space is not nothing. It ripples, right? It's like water, like I said. So space is something. It's a material. The Bible even said fabric of space. Space is a material, and science has proven it, and the Bible said it first. Okay, if the people in the past understood what it meant, then they would have predicted it. But now we now know what the fabric that the Bible is referring to, finally, right now. Okay, so that's the first version, empty space. Now, the second version, or the fourth assumption, or fifth assumption. Okay, evolution is more than 10. This is our fifth assumption. Okay, either God put empty space, or he put empty space and the stars and galaxies also in that empty space. Okay, so 2 versions. Okay, now here's the thing. God said he stretched out the heavens, right? Okay, based on the first version, it's space. God, if Bible said 17 times God stretched out the heavens, right? So first version, okay, first one. If we use the first version in which only space came out, not the second version where God also put galaxies and stars into that empty space, then cosmic evolution can happen. But instantly, the Big Bang model in just 24 hours. Okay, it is like a huge. The Big Bang is a little singularity, but ours here, which pop out of the black hole, is like a big version of a singularity. Okay, applying the Big Bang model. So empty space came out. Okay, and then the evolution of the universe, like the Big Bang suggested, happened when God said he stretched out the heavens. Okay, this is what Hugh Ross said, but Dr. Humphrey's model is different. He is able to expand the universe in just 24 hours, and we have evidence that the universe was expanded quickly. Okay, in the past. Okay, and why is it slow right now? Why do evolutionists suggest that why do they suggest uniformitarianism? Because the expansion is right there at an almost constant speed, but it's not really constant because the outer edges of the universe expand faster than the inner part of the universe. Okay, so that is why we have the redshifts, right? Right, just like the sun moving, the universe moving. So that is why we have the redshifts today. Now, that's the first version of how Humphreys can accommodate the Big Bang. Okay, that's the first version. And if he uses that version, then everything that the secularists would accuse young Earth creationists of is solved by this cosmic stretching which God implemented during day 4. Okay, so that is the first version. Okay, you have to follow. And like I said, there's another version. Okay, first empty space being stretched out. Okay, and the second version is God put stars and galaxies already in that empty space inside the white hole. And then God said He stretched out the heavens. That is where the galaxies and stars came out of the white hole. Okay, they came out of the white hole and then expanded faster than the speed of light because God's power is wow. I cannot comprehend His power. So He stretched out the universe faster than the speed of light, faster than the speed of light that we hear from Neil deGrasse Tyson or Stephen Hawking. It's faster than that. Okay, the remnant speed of that once super speed of stretching of the heavens, the remnant of it we are seeing today. It slowed down to its present speed. It is no longer that fast. It slows down. If you study catastrophic plate tectonics, it's the same idea. Okay, with momentum reduced, the expansion's momentum reduced, then it will slow down. Okay, that is why secularists would invoke uniformitarianism because it is slow now. Okay, but not at the edge of the universe. The edge of the universe is still expanding. And the Bible did say this. There are two versions of God stretching of the heavens written in the Bible. First, that God already stretched the universe in the past. And yes, He did. That is why the universe is the way it is right now, very big. And God said He is also still continually stretching the heavens or expanding the universe. So that is why the universe is still expanding. That is why secularists cannot explain why the universe, since initially they say it came from an explosion, but they no longer say that it's just an expansion. But this expansion is like an explosion still, technically speaking. So when we witness explosions here on Earth, we see the explosions usually they slow down right at the edges of it. It starts fast, like the Big Bang. It starts fast, explosions here we observe on Earth, and it slows down, right? But this is the opposite. This is the problem. That is why they have to invoke dark energy. Because at the outer edges of the universe, it moves faster against the Big Bang's prediction. Okay, see? And our evidence is based on the Bible here. God said He is continually stretching the heavens. And don't forget that the expansion rate of the universe, wow, is really extremely fine tuned to many zeros with gravity. Okay, so there's a design feature over there. Now, okay, now, okay, let's just go with the second version so that this one takes very long. Okay, so those galaxies, right? Push the Earth. Those space and those galaxies push the Earth down into the timeless zone. So clocks stop ticking on the Earth, while clocks in the universe, while inside the white hole, the higher you get at the door of the white hole or right before you go out of the white hole, there is time, but slower. But the Earth sinking too low has no more time, timeless zone. Okay, so God said He stretched out the heavens. So when He stretched out the heavens, there you go. Galaxies started to come out. Okay, of that white hole. And when those galaxies came out of that white hole, time begins to tick. Okay, time begins to tick. Just
Jeremy,
like
I just wanted to clarify real quick for the audience. So, real quick, while the Earth is inside that,
galaxy.
while the galaxy is inside that gravitational well, you're saying God then created the stars in that well?
Yeah, that's the second version. Yes.
Right. Okay. Because you're going over two versions here. So, is if the stars and the galaxies are being created in that well after the Earth is already in that well, is that what's pushing the Earth down lower into the well, into the
Yes.
timeless zone?
Either empty space, which is cosmic in proportion, in size, is already enough. What adding stars and adding more adding trillions of galaxies would further, of course, push. It's already enough
Okay.
space.
Okay. So you're saying by God now creating stars and galaxies inside that gravitational well, that is now resulting in that original dent in space to increase further and further and further to the point of sending the Earth down to a point where time pretty well completely stops.
And we get stuck there for a while.
Right. Okay.
When God started to stretch the universe, He said He stretched out the heavens. So a white hole suddenly appeared. Okay, this is supported by evidence using Lawrence Krauss. Okay, using Lawrence Krauss' own data and the secularists, white holes suddenly pop out of nowhere, and then there you go. By the way, the white hole popped out of nothing, just like the singularity of the Big Bang. Here we go, just like the Big Bang. That is why this is irrefutable. Now, irrefutable again because we're using Lawrence Krauss' own data here. Okay, so there's no way to refute it when we use the other side's data. Now, okay, now the white hole suddenly pop out of nothing, from eternity. Okay, and then God said He stretched out the heavens. Okay, and He said He stretched out the heaven. It means He stretched out the water and the stars and galaxies out of that white hole. Okay, remember, it came from a timeless. It came from a singularity like Big Bang, but this is not a singularity. This is like a huge singularity, a huge white hole just popped out. Okay, when God started to stretch the heavens, and then He stretched the heavens, the water, which houses the stars and galaxies from all directions, okay, all directions. And as the first galaxies came out, time begins to tick. Because, like I said, the white hole came from nothing, just like the singularity of the Big Bang came from nothing.
Okay, so those stars and galaxies that are first coming out of the well, time and clocks are ticking for those first galaxies and stars,
Yes,
but not ticking for other part. Like for example, the Earth, which is deep within that well, it's maybe very slowly it's starting to tick for the.
Yeah. Which is stuck under that well. But while the other galaxies are still in.
Real quick, okay. So the first stars and galaxies that start to come out of the gravitational time well as God stretches out the Earth, those are essentially the furthest stars and galaxies in the universe, right? So the first ones to come out are going to look the oldest.
That is why they are so faint when we look at them from Hubble.
Okay.
But though
because they were the first to come out of the well.
yeah, they are too distant.
Right.
So we cannot see them clearly, but secularists have speculated that those were yes, like you said, the oldest. Yes, and they would yeah,
Okay,
they would
so
say that
so
those were for galaxies that are forming.
so a
So
lot
as
of
you
those
again, a correlation with the Big Bang.
right, right. So a
Something
lot of those supernovas or deep time events in space, like the collision of galaxies and stuff, those
like
events may have been taking place, or not may, they would have been taking place, like let's say the deep time events in the observed in the universe that the evolutionists, uniformitarians are going to say would take millions to billions of years. Those events would be happening as God is stretching out the heavens and taking out more and more galaxies and stars from the well, right?
as long as the first few galaxies, because the entire universe is so huge, which came up out of the black hole. So the first galaxies that came out, the first space and galaxies, because space houses the galaxies,
Right.
they would be the first to experience time.
Well, because
Just,
because
just
it's the space that is being stretched out, like on a balloon. If I were to put a bunch of like on a balloon, if I were to put it, if I were to only blow up the balloon a little bit and I were to put a bunch of stickers all over the balloon, they'd all be close together. But if I start to blow up that balloon, the space in between all the stickers on the balloon, that's what's expanding. Therefore, the stickers themselves aren't actually moving. It's the space in between the stickers.
Yes. It is space
like, right.
Is
So just like
carrying
space, it's not the stars themselves that are expanding. It's the space in between the stars and galaxies that are expanding.
Exactly. Because, like I said, water houses the fishes. When you drain the water, the fish go along with the draining, right?
Right.
With the water.
Right.
So it's also the same with the stars and galaxies. So it is when God said heavens, it means space. Okay?
Space. Well, because
Yes.
I've even heard a lot of creationists that are guilty of saying, it's the stars themselves that are moving, right? God's stretching out the stars. No, he's stretching out the space, and in turn, the stars and galaxies are expanding with the space.
They heard the balloon analogy of the atheist evolutionist. They are badly influenced by the idea of the balloon analogy. So they say that it is space that is expanding. Because
Space.
in the balloon analogy, some misinterpret that when the balloon expands, the galaxy should also expand. So in a way, secular evolutionary atheists have fooled young Earth creationists on this part. They are laughing. The young Earth creationists just don't know it. Okay? How stupid we are, they say. Well, not us, not you, not me, not Romat, not Jason, and maybe more. No, not Humphreys.
Jeremy, can you go over the event horizon of the universe real quick?
The edge of the universe.
Yes.
The one which is expanding the fastest because they were the first ones to come out of the white hole. So you would expect the stretching of it to be the fastest also.
Right. Okay, so the event horizon before the stretching of the universe would have been a lot closer.
I'm sorry, a lot closer. It would be the farthest.
No, but before the stretching, where would it be?
Where would it be? At the
edge of the white hole.
No, it doesn't exist yet. It only existed when the galaxies and stars and space started to come out.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. So you're saying that God stretched out the heavens, which would mean that he expanded the event horizon of the universe, starting from the edge of that white hole.
No, the edge of the water. The one closest to the door of the white hole. I don't know what the English of that, the correct English, but this is the white hole, right? The edge, the opening of the white hole, and right here is the event horizon. Somehow, all right. Let's just say this is the event horizon. Okay, the
I
distant,
thought the event horizon was the perimeter of the white hole.
the perimeter. It is
Yes,
the perimeter of the galaxies and stars, the edges of the universe.
the edges, correct.
Edges.
Right. Yeah, yeah, the perimeter, the edges, that's what it means.
The edges, not the edge of the white hole, the edges of the edge of the galaxy, the universe. Okay, in
I
which
don't
we
know.
don't.
I read that Dr. Humphreys stated that the event horizon is the perimeter of the white hole. Edges of the
Uh,
white hole.
huh? Romat is saying something.
No, because Dr. Humphreys says that
No. That is from his first book.
yes, but he's saying that the event horizon passed through the Earth on what was it on creation day 4, so that the billions of years of time were passing in the outer galaxies,
That
but
was
only
his
one
first
day
version.
was passing on Earth.
That was the first version of his book.
Okay, well that's what he's so that's what he's saying though.
When did he say that?
Well, you just said that he said that in the first version of his book.
In his version of his book. Yes, but where did you hear that? Him saying that.
In the book, in his book.
You read it in his book?
Yes.
Which book? The first one or
I
the
think
one
it was,
with?
I think it was the second one. Or no, I think it was the first one.
All right, that is why there's the second one to solve the problems of the first.
Now you're saying now with the problems that are solved are because the first one would say that the
Wait. Sorry, standing for truth. Uh, yes. I can also I let me recall. The edge of the white hole, in a way, can be called the event horizon also. And when the galaxies came out, when time started ticking, the distant galaxies, the edge of the universe in which we don't know where it is, that is the event horizon also. Are you following? It
right.
is also the event horizon. Okay? It's written in the Bible actually, the waters that surround the earth. That surround the universe.
The
Because
waters, yeah,
the
because Humphreys he says I believe that the
yes, water,
waters above
yes.
are 20 billion light years away from Earth, and its waters below are at the center of the universe. You can see his diagram. That's what I'm looking at. His diagram where it shows the Earth in the center, and then way out there at the edges, you've got the waters above. But you've also got the waters below that are at the center of the universe where the Earth is.
Where
That's
are galaxies?
that's his diagram that he has.
Galaxy, by galaxy. Without the cosmic axis of evil integrated into this evidence, we have to use galaxy now. It is something that we should have said before. It is not a mistake. It is just a because we don't want to go back to the Galileo days,
Right.
even though we
Well, with
can.
what you're saying with the galaxies, that is typically what I use too, because that's an improvement of the model. Because, like you said, the first book will explain how those billions of years of time were passing in the outer galaxies, but the time itself that should be passing within our own galaxy, that's where the issue was that Dr. Hartnett pointed out. So he
And
improved the model by not only explaining the billions of years of time passing in the outer galaxies, but also in our own galaxies, our own solar system. That's the
uh,
improvement.
the thing that you just said is also in the first version of the book. Actually, it's also in the first version. I don't know if you reached that part.
No, I'm
Doctor
talking about I'm talking about Dr. Hartnett's young solar system model, where he improves on the time dilation model.
Yes. He's being specific. I can also go specific on the solar system.
Yeah, because Hartnett improves on it a little bit, where he resolves a few of the, I would say, minor discrepancies in, I guess, the original time dilation model. But yeah, he explains our solar system as well.
Minor discrepancies. Well, we can use the Pioneer effect. We can use Voyager also. We can use several satellites which are not moving the way they should be because of time dilation. It is evidence that a massive time dilation happened in the past,
Right.
right?
That's right.
Okay, so those galaxies came out. Okay, time started to tick while the Earth clocks are still zero. Okay, stuck below that well. And day 1 to day 3 could have happened while the Earth is in the timeless zone. Dr. Humphrey said the Earth was dull, nothing was happening, but he didn't say, sorry, it was dull, but he never said nothing was happening. Okay, so day 1 to day 3 could have happened while the Earth is in the timeless zone. Okay, God could have created, yes, like I said, the Milky Way galaxy inside that white hole. And when God said he created light, it could have been the sun itself, right? Or it could have been, I don't know, we don't know. But the way I see it, it could have been the sun immediately. Because people are trying to move away from the sun as the source of the light that the Bible is referring to. But if most creationists, young Earth creationist scientists, astrophysicists, are beginning to accept that it is the galaxy, not the Earth itself, at the center at or near the center of the universe, then we can now finally say where the light, let there be light, came from. The Bible said it is as simply as our own sun, not the explanation Hugh Ross postulated. But it is as simple as our own sun. Yes, so it gets better. Okay. Now, okay, so time started to tick when God stretched out the heavens. So billions of years of physical processes. You know why billions of years is possible? Because Earth is experiencing no time. So no time can be 1,000 years. It could be 2,000 years. Could be 10,000. Could be a billion. Could be 13 billion. Right? Correct. When you are outside of space and time, you can see the entire 13 billion years of cosmic history, correct? I finally realized that how God was able to make prophecies, or the Bible is able to make prophecies, because only a timeless being can see what's happening in time, that in the time he created, right? Only a timeless being like God, okay? So he's able to see the time he created from start to finish. That is why he said he is the beginning and he is the end, because he can see time from the beginning and to the end. So this applies the same with the universe. Okay, so the Earth inside the timeless zone, okay, billions or even trillions of years, any time could have elapsed, okay, in the universe. But right now, Humphreys again uses the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years, distant galaxies. So as you can see, slowly but surely, his model is beginning to sound irrefutable, right? There's some kind of a sound problem here. Do you guys hear it? Is everything all right?
Yeah. Are you hearing it right now, Jeremy?
Yeah, there's some kind
No,
of
I'm muted. So.
yeah. Yeah. Ramat, any problem? No problem. All right. Okay.
No problem.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So when you're outside of space and time, just like the Earth,
Right.
timeless is kind of like outside of space and time, but in fact, it's in the white hole, just beneath it. So time
Right.
stops It's like eternal. No.
So
So any time could have elapsed in the universe when God stretched out the heavens.
okay, so
Okay?
what you're saying in a nutshell then, for the audience sake, is when the Earth clocks finally start ticking, as
No.
God is stretching out the universe, stretching out the heavens, since it's the galaxies and stars that are coming out of that gravitational time well first, there would have been then, as you're saying, billions of years of this cosmic activity, all while the Earth was still in that well, therefore not experiencing really any time at all. That means the light, the so-called light time travel problem that the evolutionists point to, light from those galaxies have already traveled to the center of matter. And therefore, when the Earth finally came out of it, and there was no longer a white hole because it spewed out all its matter, light, distant starlight was already there for Adam and Eve to see.
Yes, exactly. And 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 lastly, when God stretched out the heavens, okay, with His power, okay, with His power, the outer edges of the event horizon, the edges of the universe. This is the problem for secularists. Like I said, why is the edges flowing so fast? It should not be this fast. It is fast. Okay, an explosion will not will slow it down. It should be slowed down, but it's still fast and still and gravity itself is a balance with the speed of the expansion of the universe. This is a miracle actually. They cannot explain it. Just like they cannot explain why we have a thin atmosphere, which is perfect to support photosynthesis and everything. Okay? Now, there you go. They cannot explain it, but we can. Okay? But here we have the expanding universe, just like the Big Bang. Okay, so billions of years of physical processes like supernovas, like colliding galaxies, like we talked about, like the formation of, let's say, we talked about before the with raw mat, the formation of the Oort cloud. So with or without the Oort cloud, we have no problem in your Humphrey's model. But if you apply Faulkner's model or Jason Lyle's model, then they have a problem, including collided galaxies. They have a huge problem. Jason Lyle even said, if you want to everything solved, you have to go to Russell Humphreys. He said that.
Jeremy, I want to ask you, because typically, I'm not sure if in this broadcast, did you make the analogy of a trampoline? Just
Yes.
so,
Yes,
because
the trampoline is like the space. The space
because for the audience sake, as they're trying to, I guess, imagine that dent in time caused by gravity. If you picture, I like to picture actually a bowling ball. Picture how heavy that is. Just toss that into the middle of a trampoline, and you can see how much of a dent in that trampoline that would be created. And therefore, if you picture that bowling ball is the Earth down the furthest, that would be where the Earth clocks are the slowest, to the point where there wouldn't be any time at all, as you were pointing out.
Yes, because the Earth was stuck inside, right? And then the galaxies all were released already. Then the Earth slowly went up, and the starlight already traveled because Earth is in the eternal realm. So an eternity worth of time for starlight to travel to the center of mass. So when our Milky Way galaxy came out, the starlight was already there. Okay, so to finish it up, sorry for taking too much time. I just want young Earth creationists to really fully understand this, because the explanations in those videos are, I don't know why Humphreys did not. I'm not trying to be smarter than him, but I wish he had explained it much better. Really, no offense to him. Okay, like I said, the edges of the universe are still expanding, like the Bible said. Okay, which is against the Big Bang, because the Big Bang should have slowed down already the edges of the universe, and the gravity of the edges of at the edges of the universe should not match with should also slow down along with the while the event horizon of the universe was still expanding very fast. Okay, so since it is still expanding at the outskirts of the universe, it's still moving away. That is why we see red shifts, just like the sun moving, right? When the sun set like that, it gets red shifted, right? So it's the same concept. Everything is moving away from us. That is why evolutionists have to use the rescuing device of balloon analogy. Okay, so everything right now. When you look at the telescope, everything is still moving away from us, and the further away, moving away from us is already scary enough for atheists. Okay, you add its edges being so finely tuned with gravity, finely balanced, they go at the same time, and then and this expansion is moving away from us. It's not only expanding, it's also moving so fast that it's why there's a red shift. Okay, but we also find blue shifts. Okay, I wish I could show you the map here, the very detailed map of where the blue shifts are and the red shifts are. Andromeda is red shifted because it is headed towards us. Okay, why are there red shifts? Simple. Because when God stretched out the heavens, okay, distant galaxies, they have more space, right? They will have more space, correct? Because they are stretched out, they are spread out even further. They are not condensed like the ones that are closer to our galaxy. So the momentum of God's power stretched them out. Okay, so the stretching out continued, like the Bible said, against what the Big Bang said. Okay, that is a failed prediction of the Big Bang. That is why we have the red shifts. Okay, now we have the blue shifts because the momentum of that expansion, not the edges, but at the middle, close to the middle, which is at or near the center of mass, which is our galaxy. Okay, which came out of that well after the universe came out. Okay, so nearby galaxies would obviously be blue shifted because they would drift apart from, let's say, this direction or that direction. But it doesn't mean that everything around our galaxy are blue shifted, because some are still moving away. Okay, but you seldom see uh, 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 galaxies or galaxy clusters very distant that are blue shifted. Blue shifts are mostly within just not too far, not too far, not really too. They are still distant, of course, but they are as far as those galaxies that are expanded. The the outer parts of the universe, the farther parts of the universe. Okay, so that's why we have blue shifts. We can explain the blue shift. Okay, just like how the Big Bang explained the blue shift. Here we go again, the Big Bang. We're using the Big Bang here. That is why this model is irrefutable. I can name a lot
Right.
of examples.
Okay, so what you're saying, because I've heard this argument before from hardcore evolutionists, they'll say that this model of gravitational time dilation and white hole cosmology predicts large blue shifts in light from nearby galaxies, but they'll say that those aren't observed. So what you're saying here counters that.
Andromeda, we observe it. In our local group, we do observe two more. We have a local group of galaxies in which Dr. Hugh Ross even used as evidence of fine-tuning. You know the local group of galaxies that we are in?
Well,
Yeah,
then isn't that a confirmed prediction of the model?
that local group?
Right.
No, it does not have to do with the model. My point here is, yeah, it does support a bit, but my point here is most of the galaxies that are near our Milky Way galaxies are blue shifted. They can even look at the blue shift redshift map. I sent it a raw mat one time, but it was too late to make it into a video, I recall. And other maps also show the same, where the redshifts are at the edges, at the outskirts. Okay, but they are still billions of light years in distance, in size. Okay, but they are much larger than the blue ships because God really used His power to stretch everything out
Right.
as far as possible.
And the fact that the Bible really emphasizes that over and over and over again, I think is significant in what you're saying. And I did want to point out too the fact that a lot of evolutionists will hear this, and if they're not familiar with Einstein's theories and things like that, they'll think that this is just so absurd and non-scientific. But Albert Einstein himself said that gravity can slow down time, and he's been proven right. And he's also said that anyone who is moving through space at near the speed of light will also experience time being slowed down for them. And all of these facts have been proven regarding Einstein's theory of relativity. And what's amazing is these go perfectly well with both the Bible and with Dr. Russell Humphrey's theory on the universe regarding Whitehall cosmology and gravitational time dilation. So it is very there is a very strong scientific basis that flows from this theory is pretty well what I'm saying.
Yeah, it solves everything because it does apply 60%, 60 to 70% of Big Bang ideas. I only mentioned a few a while ago. Okay, because there's unlimited time in the universe, so there's unlimited time for galaxies to collide, and yeah, and we do see remnants of those collided galaxies. That's just
Okay, so the only two things really then regarding the model okay, well, real quick, Jeremy. So two of the things that the evolutionists would reject, or I should say the Big Bangers, would be because they would agree with us regarding this model that the universe has been expanding from a much denser state in the past. Now, they agree with that, but what they disagree with is that, for one, the universe is bounded in space, and that the Earth is at or near its center. So those are the two things that Big Bangers would reject. Because right, because from my understanding, most Big Bang Theory models they say are unbounded, right? They'll say that they have no center or no edge. So therefore, they're going to reject our assumption that the universe itself is bounded. But yeah, that's why you pointed out that it's got about 60 to 70% in common with your typical mainstream Big Bang theories, right?
Yes, that is why it is irrefutable. But the
Right.
problem that Dr. Jason Lisle suggested, in which I think you heard, is solved in the second version of the book of Starlight and Time by Dr. John Hartnett with the support of Dr. Russell Humphreys, of course.
Right.
The problem that Dr. People speaking behind my back. Where was I? Dr. Jason Lisle objection. Man,
We can still hear you, man.
the
We
model,
can hear you clearly.
the The model, the problem that Jason Lisle opened up in his debate with Dr. Hugh Ross, if you recall, Standing for Truth, is the objection that secularists also make, okay, based on the first book. Because we, here on Earth, experience time dilation. But this time dilation is too slow, not enough to create the time dilation needed for it to reach 13 billion light years, something like that. As you can see, there's already a misrepresentation of the model here. Okay. So the first thing that we could use against that is there's already a misrepresentation of the model here, and uh, people are speaking behind my back. Sorry, I cannot concentrate. Um, so he's Dr. Jason Lisle is using secular, yeah, because we observe time dilation here, and this time dilation is so weak. Okay, it's only from Mount Everest down to below sea level. The time dilation is just so, the number is just so small, and it's just so weak that you cannot apply it in the entire universe. Okay, and like
Yeah,
you
but
said,
isn't that the whole point of the Earth being so far deep in that gravitational time well that time has pretty well stopped? I mean, it's not really a good comparison with the time dilation on Earth. You'd have to you'd have to multiply that a million time fold, it seems. So isn't
they
that a
are,
representation of the model? Oh, sorry,
doc,
go ahead, Jeremy.
yeah, in short, Standing for Truth, Dr. Jason Lisle is using the Earth as the basis for this objection, just like secularists.
So he's
But
using the Earth as it is now. So you're saying he's using the Earth as it is now in the present?
oh yeah, and there are two solutions to that. Like you said in, what did you say again about the solar system thing?
Oh, right, yeah.
Uh,
Um,
yeah,
it,
you
it
can.
comes it apparently it comes down to where you place the waters above, because I know Dr. Hartnett places the waters above, I believe, at the perimeter of the solar system, as compared to
Yeah,
Russell Humphreys. He places the waters above at the edge of the universe itself, essentially doing nothing out there, while
uh,
Dr. Hartnett gives it purpose within our
uh,
own solar system.
do you know why Dr. Humphreys put the waters at the edge of the universe? Because we need an explanation for the CMB, the cosmic
Right.
background
That's
radiation.
right. That's right.
Water radiates, right? So this is the only explanation we have for why there is a CMB, right? We have to have an explanation for everything. And yes, there could have been some water at the edges of the solar system. Okay, it's also possible. But why not at the edges of the universe also, right? I'm basing this on his first book. And yes, by the way, it is really weird. Dr. Danny Faulkner also agreed the waters are at the edges of the universe to explain
Yes,
this.
that's right.
Yeah. So we have Humphrey's first book and Hartnett's and Dr. Faulkner's idea, and he used scripture to support this idea. Okay, Dr. Lisle even said there is no explanation for the CMB. But in fact, Dr. Faulkner and Dr. Humphreys has explanation. And Dr. Hartnett never rejected the idea. Did you know this, Standing for Truth? Dr. Hartnett never rejected the idea that the waters are also at the edges of the universe. Did you not know this?
Right.
He did not reject it. He did not reject it. He just added another source, right?
Right. So
Did you read?
it
Did
looks
you
like
read? Right? He did not. He did not reject it. Did he reject it? Not as far as I recall.
From my understanding, Dr. Hartnett, in his young solar system model, I think he calls it.
Young solar system, yes, but not the universe. We're
Right.
talking about the universe here.
Right.
Okay.
Well, he from my understanding, he changed the position of the waters above. For example, in Dr. Humphrey's model, the waters above are at the outer limits of the universe, as we were saying. And Dr. Hartnett puts the waters above at the perimeter of the solar system in order to give them a continuous role in possible affairs on Earth. But that's all I remember studying.
As I recall, there are several waters above in the Bible. They're not just one. Just like the stretching of the heavens, there are two versions.
Right. Right.
The heavens were stretched out already, and the other, yeah, the heavens were stretched out right already. And at the same time, the Bible also said God is still stretching the heavens.
Right. So, for example, in Dr. Humphrey's model, he would have the waters above at the very outer limits, 20 billion light years away, for example, at the outer limits of the universe, and then the waters below. There's two: waters below, waters above, at the center of the universe itself, near the Earth.
Yeah.
So you're right. There's two. There's multiple.
Yeah, there's multiple actually, as I recall, when Dr. Faulkner made his presentation to help prove that there are waters above, in which it's really strange that he is agreeing with Humphreys, but also not agreeing with Humphreys at the same time. We need to explain
A combination of Dr. Humphreys and Dr. Hartnett's models would result in a time differential between the solar system and the outer galaxy. So it would account for the outer galaxies and the Earth, and apparently account for the objections made by the evolutionists and maybe Dr. Jason Lisle that would say that portions of Humphrey's model may not account for certain parts of the universe, like you were pointing out earlier. But apparently, a combination of both models accounts for all of that.
Jason Lisle just used the point of view of the Earth. I wonder why he because it is like a misrepresentation. Why did he use secularist data here?
Yeah, it could, because it's not. It assumes away the fact that the Earth itself would be deep within that. Because you're saying the more. So okay, so you got the Earth that's already deep. Let's use the trampoline as an example, so the audience understands. So boom, you throw the bowling ball in the middle of the trampoline, it descends deep. But then you got the stars in the galaxy. So now let's add 10 more heavy bowling balls on the trampoline. That means the center has become so heavy to the point where it would sag down to the point where it would touch the ground, meaning the time itself would come to a halt. So if God is now stretching out the heavens and the galaxies and stars are coming out first, while that Earth at first would be pretty well touching the ground, if you use the analogy of the tent, all of the being in the timeless zone, that would easily account for the billions of years of stars and galaxies and cosmic activity. So I don't see a problem in that, to be honest with you.
Just look at the satellites that we are sending into the other planets, even the one that Carl Sagan made popularized, which showed a speck of dust, which is the Earth. Everything is not moving the way they should be. Everything is like slowing down because they are being pulled into the center of mass. Just like Andromeda is being pulled towards us, right? Towards our galaxy. It's the same concept. That is why other galaxies are still coming back to us and they are blue shifted. See, it it
That's
it
right.
it all makes sense.
It
It's
does.
perfect.
As you've said, it accounts for it all. So I want to say this. It looks like we're going on 2.5 hours. But what I did is, but you know what? It's been awesome. It's been extremely extensive, and I think it's probably one of the most comprehensive videos on YouTube to date regarding this topic. And you know what? It's a topic, like all topics, that we should take serious because the evolutionists throw it at us. But I wanted to, what I'm going to do is make this a series called Evolution's Best Evidence. So today we covered in great detail the so-called light time travel problem. The next episode we do, we can touch on like the nested hierarchies, and because you're right, Jeremy, it takes to really touch on every last detail. It does take a lot of time, and in this case, 2.5 hours. So before we shut it down, Jeremy, and I think the audience can speak for me as well. I mean, you're extremely intelligent, and the way you explained it in so much great detail tonight was very much appreciated. I think you did a phenomenal job, and I think you clarified everything as well with our clarifying questions. So is there anything else you wanted to just add, Jeremy, just to kind of make it complete?
Distant starlight and nested hierarchy that you talk about are two of the best evidence evolutionists throw at young Earth creations.
I agree. That's why I think the next episode, so whether we do it tomorrow night or even, you know what, we'll either do it tomorrow night or Friday night. We'll spend another 2.5 hours touching specifically on nested hierarchies, because I think that'll be a really, really profitable and engaging discussion.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. It's been fun. It's 5 a.m. for me, so I'm going to get some sleep. But guys, the next stream we do, nested hierarchies. I want to thank Jeremy again for giving us his time. He's been a tremendous blessing to this ministry, and he's one of the smartest guys I know. He's taught me a ton. So God bless you, brother Jeremy, and Matt and Jason as well. Thanks for joining. Hopefully everybody, I know it's a highly technical topic, but like I said earlier, it's definitely something absolutely necessary to go over and address all the objections from the uniformitarians. So thanks, guys.
Yeah. Yep. That was good. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right.
See you, mate. Matt, you there?